Brittany Shante Robinson was only 14 years old when she vanished on June 14, 2012. She was last seen in Mobile, Alabama, after her aunt dropped her off at the home of her father, Demetric Hooper. Brittany was only supposed to be with her father for a 2-day visit, but she never returned home and has never been seen or heard from again. Demetric fled Mobile immediately following Brittany's disappearance. A warrant for his arrest was issued 6 weeks later. Investigators were finally able to track Demetric down in September 2012 at a mental health facility in Arkansas. He suffered from both schizophrenia and drug addiction and had previously been in and out of treatment centers in Alabama for years. During September 2012, Demetric reportedly was seeking treatment for his schizophrenia. Once police tracked him down, they confirmed that Brittany was not with Demetric in Arkansas. He was then arrested and charged with felony custodial interference. After Demetric's arrest, investigators determined that he had been in Arkansas since July. However, in the weeks following Brittany's disappearance, he traveled to multiple different locations throughout the southeastern United States. On July 7, 2012, Demetric took a bus from Memphis, Tennessee to Arkansas, and it was determined that Brittany was not with him during said trip. When police finally tracked him down, they found Brittany's iPod, knives, and a rope in his possession. Demetric continuously denied harming his daughter, and a search of his home provided no evidence of Brittany's whereabouts. Due to this, police were unable to charge Demetric with anything related to Brittany's disappearance, but they still pursued the custodial interference charges. After initially denying those charges as well, Demetric ended up pleading guilty to custodial interference in August 2014. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Brittany remains missing today. The Mobile Police Department is in charge of her case. If you have any information that could lead to Brittany's whereabouts, please contact detectives at 251-208-1700. Brittney Wood was 19 years old when she went missing from Alabama on May 30, 2012. Her disappearance opened a Pandora's box of family secrets, ultimately leading to 11 convictions and the discovery of the largest child sex ring Alabama has ever seen. A single mother to a 2-year-old girl, Brittany had far from an easy start in life. She was molested as a child by her step-grandfather, who was later sentenced to life in prison. As she reached her teens, Brittany became involved in drugs and was bouncing from home to home at the time of her disappearance. She had last been seen on the way to her uncle's house. The uncle in question, Donald "Donnie" Holland, was under investigation at the time, facing numerous allegations of child sexual abuse against members of his family. On the day that Holland was scheduled to be questioned, he took a gun to his head, killing himself and taking his secrets to the grave. The gun, police later found out, belonged to Brittney Wood. Volunteers searched the 5-mile radius surrounding Donnie's house, but found no trace of the troubled young woman. As authorities delved further into the case against Donnie, they uncovered a depraved and incestuous sex ring that shook the community to its core. Investigations revealed that Donnie, his wife Wendy, and numerous other relatives had been taking part in group sex parties for years, sharing each other's children under the guise of family barbecues. Groomed from an early age, as many as 16 children were abused by the gang, forced to watch the others until they were deemed old enough to take part. Despite several formal complaints of abuse going back at least 6 years, it seems that none of these allegations were seriously pursued. Wendy Holland, wife of Donnie and maternal aunt of Brittany, was found guilty of a range of abuse charges in 2015 and was sentenced to 219 years in prison. Wendy's twin sister, Mendy Kent, was also found guilty and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Mendy's husband, Dustin Kent, pled guilty to his charges and was sentenced to 17 years in prison. Randall Wood, brother of Wendy, Mendy, and Brittany's mother Chessie, pled guilty to his charges and was sentenced to a 15-year split sentence, of which only 3 were spent in prison. Brittany's brother, Derek Wood, was granted youthful offender status, and as such, his records are sealed. Wendy and Donnie's son, Donnie Holland Jr., was also granted youthful offender status. Brittany's mother, Chessie, pled guilty to the misdemeanor of reckless endangerment. In addition to the 8 family members, 3 family friends, William Bonnie Brownlee, James Cumber and Nelton Butch Morgan, were also charged. Despite the large number of arrests, none of the accused gave any indication as to the whereabouts of Brittney Wood. Some suspect that she may have disappeared following an act of vigilante justice against her uncle Donnie, a theory fueled by the unusual position of his gunshot wound. While self-inflicted gunshots are typically directed to the side of his head, or via the mouth or forehead, Donnie was found with an injury to the rear of the head, behind his ear. Considering what Brittany knew about her family, it seems unlikely that she would leave her 2-year-old daughter behind. However, it is worth noting that the little girl was in the custody of her father prior to Brittany's disappearance. Brittany's stepmother, Stephanie Hankey, has since revealed that a female family member had told Brittany she had been raped by 3 male relatives just days before she went missing. It is possible that, with investigations pending, the family needed Brittany to be silenced. The circumstances surrounding the discovery of Donnie's body have certainly raised suspicions. He was found in his cell by his wife Wendy and a female friend, who incidentally would also later be accused of sexual abuse and the production of child pornography. Alongside Brittany's gun, her cell phone battery was found in the car, perhaps removed in the mistaken belief that it would prevent her phone from being tracked by police. Hankey believes that Wendy Holland holds the key to Brittany's disappearance, but 6 years on, she has given nothing away. The perpetrators may be locked behind bars, but for Brittney Wood, justice is yet to be done. Speaking to us, Brittany's mother Chessie said the following: "It's been 6 years since Brittany went missing. Wish I could say it gets easier, but that would be a lie. Through the grace of God, we have learned to cope with her not being in our lives. We also realize that she is now in the hands of our Father in heaven. Knowing this gives us the greatest peace. We focus on the good memories we have of Brittany which make us smile. Please keep her and her daughter in your prayers." The last moment anyone saw Kierra Stubbs was caught on camera, but all these years later, there still hasn't been an arrest in her case. The Birmingham, Alabama resident reportedly met a man at her job who was in need of some help with his kids. He didn't know how to do their hair, so in exchange for Kierra's help, the man reportedly told Kierra Stubbs that he'd do some work on her car's brakes. "I didn't know him personally, but Kierra knew him from coming up to her job," the 23-year-old's grandmother Ora Stubbs told CBS 42. From what Kierra said, he seemed like a nice person, and he needed someone to help with his kids' hair and stuff, and she was like, "Yeah, I got a daughter, I can do their hair." He seemed nice at the time. Ora added, "He wasn't a boyfriend or nothing like that. It's just somebody she thought was an older guy who was nice. She was helping him, and he would return the favor by doing her car. And she went with him to meet him that day." The mother of two met up with the man, whose name hasn't been released to the public, on April 24, 2014, at a Boost Mobile store in Birmingham. Surveillance footage shows the two greeting each other before Kierra Stubbs gets inside of his burgundy Chrysler 200. Detective Rodney Rogers was one of the original investigators in this case, but is no longer a part of the team. He said, "It's no witnesses to say what happened in the car, where did they go, or anything like that. So that's why we need the public to go back to that day and see if they remember anything or saw anything, saw them go anywhere, something that could give us a lead or somewhere to start. We haven't forgotten." The Birmingham Police Department has still been working on the case, Rogers continued. "We are still trying to get new leads. I just want to let them know we are still looking at, even though I'm not working on the case, our cold case detective is very capable. He's looking at it, and we're not going to stop until we get some closure." At the time of her disappearance, Kierra Stubbs was 5 feet 3 inches tall and 145 pounds. She had brown hair, brown eyes, and was last seen wearing grey leggings with a grey sweatshirt or coat. The man she was with is described as a black gentleman, older, possibly in his 50s. Anyone with information about this case is urged to contact Birmingham Police Detective Jonathan Ross at 205 to 254 to 1764 or 205 to 504-0008. Lakira Dajour Goldsmith, who went by the nickname Pig, was 20 years old and living on Narrow Lane Road in Montgomery, Alabama with her 3-year-old son Armani when she went out with her boyfriend the day before Thanksgiving. Her grandmother saw her getting out of his car at the apartment complex later that evening, but to all appearances she never made it inside. Later, around 2 a.m. on Thanksgiving Day, one of the complex's maintenance workers says that he let Lakira borrow his phone. When he came outside again, Lakira was gone, and the phone was abandoned on the steps. She has never been seen again. Her mother Marchelle, who has been caring for her grandson along with her other 2 children since Lakira vanished, has been tireless in her efforts to get people to search for her daughter, but so far it's been to little avail. Lakira wasn't listed on NamUs until a year after her disappearance, and remains unlisted on the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency website. News coverage of her case remains brief and intermittent. According to Marchell, Lakira rarely left without warning and would never have willingly abandoned her family or her son. She has never posted on Facebook since her disappearance, which they describe as very out of character, and the medication required to treat her severe asthma, a condition that had hospitalized her multiple times in the past, was left in her apartment. Despite the lack of coverage, Lakira is considered endangered missing, and anyone with information is encouraged to call the Montgomery Police Department at 334 625 2810. Texas EquuSearch have volunteered their services to search for Lakira, but without any information they have nowhere to start. Lakira Goldsmith remains missing, and her family continues to look for answers. It's been more than 15 years since a teen disappeared in Montgomery, but authorities said they are not giving up on finding her. LaQuanta Riley, who was 19 when she vanished, was last seen on December 7, 2003. According to the missing persons website The Charlie Project, Riley left her Montgomery home in a dark green four-door car, possibly a Ford Taurus or Chevrolet Caprice. The driver took Riley to her mother's home 3 miles away, where Riley asked for a jacket. Her brother, who answered the door, asked who was driving the car. Riley told her brother the driver was a friend she met from around the neighborhood. She got back in the car and never returned home, and 3 days later her mother reported her missing. She left behind her purse and money. Sometime between a few days and a few weeks after Riley's disappearance, her mother got a message on her telephone answering machine which she believes was from Riley. The message wasn't clear. The caller said either leave me alone or let me go home. A man's voice in the background said Riley's name, then the call disconnected. It has never been traced. Riley graduated from Georgia's Reedon High School in 2002, where she was an honors student. She had gotten a full college scholarship and wanted to study criminal justice and have a career in forensic science. Central Alabama Crime Stoppers on Monday released an age-progressed photo of Riley. At the time of her disappearance, Riley's ears and tongue were pierced. She has a scar on her nose. She also has Rest in Peace Mesha tattooed on her left arm and LaQuanta tattooed on her right arm. Her nicknames are Quanna and Quanta. You can read more about her disappearance and see more photos here. A reward totaling $11,000 is being offered for information. The City of Montgomery is offering $5,000, the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office is offering $5,000, and Central Alabama Crime Stoppers is offering $1,000. Anyone with information Riley's whereabouts is asked to call Montgomery Police or Crime Stoppers using the 24-hour tip line at 334-215 7867. The numbers for the Montgomery Police Department are 334-241-2350, 334-241-2078 or 334-241-2831. On July 4, 2016, most of Troy, Alabama's 19,000 residents were preparing for the annual fireworks show. Lelia Faulkner, 29, was one of those residents. She had recently moved home to live with her parents Rick and Susan Faulkner following a breakup with her live-in boyfriend. Lelia's daughter Madison, then 7, had already been living with her grandparents. Susan and Rick had become the primary guardians for their granddaughter shortly after her birth. Susan told Dateline that around 7 p.m. on the 4th, she and her husband were upstairs getting Madison ready for the Independence Day events when they heard Lelia leave out the front door. Lelia had not planned on going to the Independence Day events that night with her family, so Susan and Rick weren't concerned when they heard her leave. She had left right before we had, but we didn't see the car that picked her up, so we do not know who she left with or if she walked up the road, Susan told Dateline. When Lelia didn't arrive home the next morning, the Faulkners told Dateline they still weren't worried because it wasn't unusual for Lelia to stay away from home for a night or two. But as 3 more days came and went with no contact from Lelia, Susan says she and Rick did grow concerned. It was unlike Lelia. Usually I hear from her every day, even when she was living with her ex-boyfriend Blaine, Susan said. She would always call me or get in contact with me just about every day by either calling or texting. On July 7, 2016, Susan and Rick decided to notify the Pike County Sheriff's Office that Lelia was missing. The family had come in and they said she left on the 4th of July and hadn't seen or heard from her since, Lieutenant Troy Johnson of the Pike County Sheriff's Office told Dateline. However, Lieutenant Johnson said the Faulkners were not allowed to file a missing persons report at that time because Lelia was a 29-year-old female who has a history of up and leaving and not having contact with anyone. Police and family both told Dateline that this, indeed, was not Lelia's first time disappearing. She had disappeared about a year or so before this incident, and the family did not do a missing persons report. But they did report she was gone, and to be on the lookout for her, Lieutenant Johnson said. Lelia's mother Susan confirmed this account to Dateline and said her daughter had come home a few days later. But this time didn't seem to be the same. Lieutenant Johnson told Dateline that, before police became involved, he advised the family to check with all of Lelia's friends to see if they knew where she was. So in the weeks immediately following Lelia's 2016 disappearance, Susan and Rick searched for their daughter and followed up on tips themselves. Susan told Dateline that one of their first steps was to create a Facebook page called Help Find Lelia Faulkner, which has now amassed over 1,400 followers. Family and friends also created flyers and billboards to put up around town. The rumors we heard, we checked them all out. But we had to do it by ourselves because the police wouldn't come and search these places with us, Susan told Dateline. One of the rumors, Susan said, was that Lelia might have been seen at a party in Spring Hill, about 15 minutes away from home, on the night she disappeared. However, they were never able to confirm the sighting. 2 weeks after Lelia's disappearance, her parents, having exhausted their search, returned to the Pike County Sheriff's Office and, this time, were able to file a missing persons report. The Faulkners soon listed a $5,000 reward for information leading to Lelia's safe return, which has now grown to $10,000. Tips did come in, but Lieutenant Johnson told Dateline he believes the offer of a cash reward may be the reason why. The lieutenant says that authorities did survey some of the areas where Lelia was allegedly seen the night she went missing, but they did not think the claims warranted cadaver dogs to be used in the searches. A lack of substantial leads prompted Lelia's family to solicit outside help from Halo Investigations, a non-profit organization dedicated to combating trafficking and exploitation of children. With Halo, we normally do people 21 and under, but we have taken a few adult cases over time, Barbara Hastings, case manager at Halo Investigations, told Dateline. After hearing of Lelia's case in 2016, Hastings reached out to the Faulkners, and she and her team have since worked with authorities to organize searches and distribute flyers around town. Lieutenant Troy Johnson has been excellent working with us and giving us information. And, of course, we give them anything that we have and turn it over, Hastings said. Lieutenant Johnson and Barbara Hastings both say this case is abnormal because they've been unable to trace Lelia at all. Lelia's cell phone has not pinged, and her bank accounts have not been accessed since her disappearance. Authorities later searched Lelia's parents' home, phone records and computers, but Halo Investigations' Barbara Hastings told Dateline there was nothing, absolutely nothing, that showed she reached out to anyone to pick her up that night. However, upon searching Lelia's mother Susan's phone, authorities found text messages from Lelia to her mother saying she was afraid of her ex-boyfriend, Blaine Gralier. The text messages, Susan told Dateline, also said that, if anything happened to Lelia, authorities should investigate Blaine. Police confirmed the text messages to Dateline and said they had been sent about 6 days before Lelia went missing. Susan also told Dateline that shortly before Lelia's disappearance, her daughter had told her she was pregnant by a man other than Blaine. We believe that one of the arguments between Blaine and Lelia was because she was with Blaine and ended up getting pregnant by another guy. That's probably why they had the bad breakup. But I could never get him to tell me that, Lieutenant Johnson told Dateline. Blaine Gralier did not reply to Dateline's request for comment by Sunday afternoon. We've done all we can in terms of looking into Blaine, Lieutenant Johnson said, adding that authorities at the Pike County Sheriff's Office have interviewed him a few times and had him take a polygraph test. The polygraph examiner said the test was kind of inconclusive. They did not think he was being completely truthful. Lieutenant Johnson requested a second polygraph test, administered by a different examiner, to be performed. This time, Gralier refused to take it. He has not been interviewed by authorities since. Lieutenant Johnson told Dateline that because there is no evidence directly connecting Blaine to Lelia's disappearance, he cannot make Blaine come in for further questioning. It's been 2 years since Lelia vanished, and her mother Susan says tips still come in. We got an anonymous tip saying that her body was buried up under one of the fire pits near the party where she was allegedly last seen, and the sheriff's department did take cadaver dogs there to search, Susan told Dateline. Lieutenant Johnson said authorities excavated that site and brought cadaver dogs, but no significant evidence was found. As with any mother of a missing child, Susan still clings to hope that one day Lelia will appear. We just want her to come home, she says. We love her, and we miss her so much. And Madison worshipped the ground her mama walked on. But Susan is also a realist, given the amount of time that has now passed. I truly believe the rumors we have heard, she admitted. And it's just a matter of us finding her body. Lelia Faulkner is described as being 5'6" and weighed roughly 125 pounds at the time of her disappearance. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, and was last seen wearing a blue jean skirt, a white tank top and white shoes. If you have any information on Lelia Faulkner's whereabouts, please call the Contact the Pike County Sheriff's Office at 334 to 566 to 4347. 25-year-old Ryles Chapman has been missing since December 18, 2013. He disappeared from his family's property in the Besaga area of Dothan, Alabama. At the time, Ryles was living on said property in his family's pool house. On the evening he vanished, Ryles was seen running from his parents' home, wearing only boxers, while screaming that somebody was chasing him. He did not bring his cell phone, or any sort of personal identification or money when he left. Ryles never returned home, and has never been heard from again after that. His family reported him missing on December 20th. A friend of Ryles later reported that he saw Ryles on the night he disappeared, standing on the side of US 84, near the subdivision where he lived. In the months following his disappearance, numerous other people reported seeing him in downtown Dothan as well. After months went by without any trace of Ryles, investigators had an area around Bosage dug up in search of possible evidence. Unfortunately, nothing was found during their search. Dothan police are reportedly baffled by Ryles' disappearance. Sergeant Jason Adkins stated that the leads in this case have all ended up being dead ends. He explained, "As of right now we are at a standstill. We have exhausted all of the leads that we have had in the past 4 years, and we are relying on the public to give us any new information that we can follow up on. If you have any information that could lead to Ryles' whereabouts, please contact the Dothan Police Department at 334 615 to 3000. Trista Yelding has been missing since April 3, 2017. The 24-year-old was in Theodore, Alabama at the time of her disappearance, and she was staying at a friend's house on Rabun Road. According to her friend, Trista had a panic attack on the day of her disappearance. During her panic attack, Trista reportedly ran into the woods behind the house and never returned. She has never been seen or heard from again. Trista left all of her personal belongings behind, including her medication, money, and driver's license. It is out of character of her to leave without warning, especially because her family relied on her to communicate with her deaf father. There are unfortunately very few other details available about the circumstances surrounding Trista's disappearance. In July 2018, human remains were found in a wooded area on private land in Mobile, Alabama. The remains were very decomposed and appeared to have been there for quite some time. Around the time the remains were found, reports came out stating that investigators were working to identify them. However, they stated it may take time due to the level of decomposition. Trista's family was notified about the remains and were made aware of the possibility that they could belong to her. While Trista's family members wanted her to return home safely, they acknowledged if the remains did belong to her, they would at least have some closure. However, in November 2018, those remains were identified as that of Tracy Sutton, another woman who vanished in the Mobile area back in 2016. Since then, there has been very little news about the investigation into Trista's disappearance. She remains missing today. If you have any information that could lead to her whereabouts, please go here to submit an anonymous tip.